rotoscoping at the Prancing Pony all the way to rotoscoping at Weathertop. Let's talk about this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to AsArt with Nick and John. We post 3 videos a week, so check out asart.space for all the audio and video links. And of course, you can subscribe on YouTube if you like what we're doing here. This is part 2 of our animated Lord of the Rings versus live action Lord of the Rings. Is it a fair comparison? No, but we're going to do it anyway. So Nick, I think I asked this maybe the last video.
Yes.
But how long had it been since you'd seen the Lord of the Rings?
Years. And if you guys want to know all about that, please go watch the first video.
Yes.
Because we're going to get right into rotoscoping. Yes. Rotoscoping, such a classic form, like all the way back to 1914 or something like that with the Fletcher
Really
brothers.
long back.
I mean, I think the first time they did it was Coco the Clown coming out of the inkwell. It was like this cool.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh,
Coco
dude,
the
it's like
Clown. I have no idea what that is.
old school. And like this like clown comes out and he's like, he would jump out of a little inkwell. And then like they ended up using it with like stuff probably like Superman. And
yes, yeah.
I don't know if they used a lot of rotoscoping on Betty Boop, but they also did Betty Boop. They also did Popeye too.
Oh, really?
But, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool.
When I was taking my first paint and roto class in college or in grad school, learning visual effects, that's the first day. That's what our instructor brought in. He goes, "Hey, this is an example of rotoscoping to aid in animation. It's not necessarily what we're going to be doing in the class. We're using it for more visual effects, cleanup purposes, paint and roto." But he showed us those old Superman cartoons, which I had never seen before. And it's the first time it was really drawn to my attention. Like, oh, you can get very ultra realistic animation,
super smooth,
if you basically trace over live action, or at least use it as reference so you can get realistic.
I mean, you can really tell too when Superman punches stuff. It just looks so clean. You know what I mean? Like in the old school animation, and it's so funny. Some dark Disney history, but it looks super obvious that they use rotoscoping on Snow White, because Snow White, how smooth Snow White's animation is, and also Prince Charming, how like easy they move and realistically. And even
the dress and everything, like the animation is just so fluid. But you said, I think you were telling me one time they claimed they didn't, right?
Exactly, because their rival Fletcher brothers were like,
"Oh, Mickey, quit lying, Mickey."
Boy, I'm more like, "Oh no,
I'm a liar."
Anyways, but I just love that because it's like, that's rotoscoping.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I've met some people that I worked with that I'm thinking of one girl in particular. She did her thesis project and she free-handed all of her animation. It's just crazy dancing scenes where it's like a salsa dance or whatever, and it looked legit. I'm like, wow, you didn't use any references? She's like, no, I just did it, in my head. I'm like, wow. Now I don't know if that's the best way to do things. So I guess you can get close, but at the same time, if you can use reference, like in the case of Lord of the Rings, and you have a limited budget, why would you not do that? Especially if you're having to actually physically draw these frames on the transparent sheets or whatever it is. You don't want to waste them, doing stuff that's not right?
Yeah, and then it's so funny too, because like then the Maxwell brothers, they did Gulliver Travels. And it basically was Snow White.
Another thing I've never seen.
Oh, really? Oh, it's a classic.
I know. I've heard of that. So that name, you have to remind me to watch that.
It's a book.
I've heard of that name.
It's a classic book, and there's animation. But the Gulliver the Giant looks just like Prince Charming and like Snow White, though how smooth he moves and everything. But then,
I thought you were going to say that this huge guy looked just like Prince Charming. I'm like,
well, I meant like the fluid movement.
The animation,
you know what I mean? But like all the other characters
look like again. What is fluid movement?
Fluid, just like the water. I'm a water bender.
Oh wow.
Anyways, and that's an Avatar Last Airbender thing. But I was gonna say but all the other characters are so goofy looking. They look like the wolves and stuff like that from Snow White. But back into the rotoscoping as soon as you enter the bar. Oh my gosh, we're back in Lord of the Rings now. The Prancing Pony. But it threw me off. Because all of a sudden so far in this movie we've seen maybe the silhouettes at the beginning, but other than that it's been traditional animation, right?
Animated, yeah.
All of a sudden you enter the bar, you open up the doors whoa, these close-ups of people
real
laughing. You see their teeth and and they're like drinking and all this stuff. You're just like, what is going on? What movie am I watching? Did I?
It's yeah. I mean, but then in the same shot, like in the same framed shot, you'll see the hobbits that are traditionally, and it's fun when you mix sometimes, but it kind of throws you off because there's so much of it so quickly in the Prancing Pony scenes that you're just like, oh, where did this all come from? And it's not even like they animated on top of it. I feel like they used the actual video footage, almost like posterized it and just colored on top of it. Would you say that?
Yeah, it looked like a filter effect.
Yeah, because all the detail is there. And so I just feel like they just base it, which is nothing wrong with that, obviously.
It's just a style.
And it works fine. Yeah.
But, and then what's so cool, like, I look at the Strider poses with him in the corner and his feet up and everything. I'm like, did Peter Jackson maybe get inspired by this? And then you watch the ring rakes scene when they're stabbing and they're in the rooms and stuff. That whole sequence, I'm like,
very similar. Yeah.
But you know what's not similar? When they ride into town. I love in the animation, it's almost like a Western, like John Wayne coming in.
Yes, it is like a Western.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like they all
taking
come in
their
slowly.
time, huh?
Yeah, just like, you know, they're just like a posse coming in. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's not even nighttime, huh? It's like in the animated film, it's like the sun is setting. You still see the oranges and the reds in the watercolor backgrounds.
Magic hour.
I think watercolor backgrounds. Yeah, magic hour. But and you know, I think that's just a creative choice. Like they kind of depict them as people that can maybe pass as regular people, just, you know,
with
cloaked. Whereas in the Lord of the Rings, the live action one, when you see, you know, one of my favorite shots in that whole like montage when they're coming into town is the innkeeper's hiding behind his desk and he's just you know, so clearly these are scary. They come in storming, they break down the gate coming in. So it's just a completely different approach. And again, it's not fair to compare the two. I mean, obviously, as far as tension and the music and the color being at nighttime, the live action probably gets across the menacing nature of them a lot better. But at the same time, it's like it's fun to see, like you said, more of a Western type of.
You know what? Speaking of Westerns, I think John Wayne was in the bar. There's like a character that looks like John Wayne. He even has like the red scarf around his neck and the white hat and everything. You just need to be like, now, hey there, you know, like classic John Wayne.
They call me Strider, Pilgrim.
And that's the only character he played. No matter who he played in any movie, that was like the same.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Lord of the Rings.
So speaking of Strider and Aragorn, that dude is an interesting character, huh?
Where was the inspiration for the reference for this? That's what I want to know.
He looks like Hiawatha. Like this is
just so weird. Like you look at, you know, character designs and you just like, and it's cool, you know, but when you later on we see other humans in this world, you know what I mean? It's just like, it just doesn't, I don't know. It's just it's a very interesting choice. Well,
so do you think they just made him look like whatever guy was animating for the reference?
That could be
so they just made him look like that,
or maybe because he's like Strider, and he's supposed to be out in the wild. He's supposed to be very rugged. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know though, because like later on, I'm gonna save the point between Boromir and Gimli for another video.
Well, you know what? If he's supposed to be out in the wilderness, I think that's why I liked Aragorn's look in the live action, because Viggo had that. I can never say his. How do you say his last name? No, how do you say his last name?
Mortensen.
So that's why his beard and, you know, and everything worked. It's like, okay, he's out in the wild. He's not, you know, we've seen this guy cleanly shaven. I'm like, well, he looks kind of a little bit weird. But again, we've been spoiled by the live action. So.
And his sword, like you see the sword like shattered in the
sword that was broken.
Yeah, it's just like the tip of it's broken. Like I broke
just a little tip is like the sword that was broken.
But and then so the stabbing stuff really looks similar. You know, you can tell it's really inspired by. I think it inspired the film. It's just me. We have no idea.
Which is funny because in all of the Lord of the Rings, all three films, and all the hours of footage they have, which Nick and I have seen a lot of times, they've never referenced it once. Which Nick pointed out, especially part one, that some of the shots are just so similar to the animated.
It's true.
And it's not like people couldn't figure that out, you know, on their own, the similar framing. But if you have that for reference, why don't you at least take a look at it? Yeah.
You even have when Frodo sits up when he sleeps. In the animation, it's weird because he sits up and he's like, and he goes back to sleep. But in the other one, it's weird too because he like comes up at a weird angle. It's like, wait, how is he sleeping this way? Was he scratching his foot?
Scrunched over.
You know what I mean? It's like, but it's just so, you know what I mean? It's so interesting that they even chose to do that kind of thing. And it's just like, man, the prancing pony scenes, you can tell they either inspired or something. I don't know. I feel like it did. A lot of similar shots. Let us know down below if you thought there were some similar shots too. Maybe some ones that we missed too and stuff like that. But now let's go to Weathertop.
Yeah, so Weathertop. So one thing that I noticed going through just looking at the miscellaneous shots that Nick had compiled for the Weathertop scene is at the prancing pony when the ring wraiths are stabbing the beds and they jump to where Aragorn's talking to them. And then on Weathertop, the lighting looks a lot more kind of staged, like sound stages. It's more like dramatic lighting just for effect more than realistic, which is fine. I like it. And I was looking at shots, kind of individually, not in the sequence.
Yeah.
But it's funny versus like other, like the later films and probably later on in this movie as well. I feel like it was a lot more, not integrated, but it felt a lot more natural lighting.
You're 100% right. I remember even like earlier shots in the Fellowship when the riders the Nazgul were on the roads, it looked like there was like a spotlight behind them, like lighted them too, and you could just tell like even that whole forest scene when they're running to get to Huckleberry Ferry or something like that.
Huckleberry Ferry, yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe it. But they're running like they just feel so spotlit. Like, like, and I get it's supposed to be like maybe a full moon or something, but it just feels like the light's coming directly at them. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like
a full moon does cast pretty harsh light and shadows, but you get the idea that okay, this is lit for creative effect.
But it totally worked for that sequence.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, of course.
That's one of my. I mean, my favorite film out of the three is The Fellowship, and it's because of the whole.
Really,
and I just like it because it's like the whole first sequence. Because it's just like like you don't know what's going on. You're finding out about the ring, and you're like even the bugs and the grass and the twigs, everything works for the bad guy. Good luck. You know what I mean? Like it's just like what I mean. But there's like so much you're learning and stuff, and it's just a totally different feel than once you get to like Rivendell on. It's just like it feels like a different type of story. It's no longer like you're worried about Frodo making it to the prancing pony, and then he gets there. Gandalf's not there, so you're like, oh my gosh, come on, dude! He gets stabbed, and you're like, no, he's dying. And then he gets stabbed again and again and again. But the rotoscoping on Weathertop, did you like it? Like the transparency thing, and they had their weird little shiny helmets or crowns or whatever.
Yeah, you're talking about the animated film, right?
Yes, we're jumping back to the animated film.
Yeah. The animated film, I mean, it's just a completely, and this goes back to what I said in the first video. You can tell this is made in like drug-induced eras of, it's just, I mean, there's crazy backgrounds. They're not casting shadows, but they're kind of floating. It's like, but it goes to like a cool, especially when Frodo puts on the ring. Yeah. It gives you a completely different feel than the live action film. But I like it. It's like, you're almost not just like this inverted looking world where the Nazgul look like they're almost like film negatives, but it's like this is a whole different world that appears to you when you put on the ring, which I thought was like kind of a cool idea. It's like it's almost like the Upside Down and
totally
Stranger Things, where you're just like in a different thing. But I thought it was just it's fun to see the create. Obviously, we only have this animated film and the Lord of the Rings live action, but it's fun to see the creative avenues that people can take. Same book, same content, but presented in a completely different way, which is really, really fun.
There was a couple really beautifully animated sequences, though. There's like that one Avengers shot where they like pan around the group, and it was just so interesting. I'm like, whoa, they're doing a whole like circle pan thing here. Like this is insane. I mean, it was probably Roto. It was probably Roto that they probably did it. But like,
even if you had the rotoscoping for reference, it's still it's a lot of work. It
looked so good. And then they were doing slow motion shots. Like Frodo's like taking off his cape in slow motion and like picking up the sword and like running. I'm like, it looks so cool. Like it's so stylized. I was like, oh, it's so cool. You don't really see a lot of 2D slow motion stuff. You know what I mean?
No. You don't, huh?
It's just like, whoa, look at this. He's like, well, you see like the coat like disappear too because he's like throwing it out of his world. And then like Aragorn's just like a flight like a lander thing. Like he's like trying to get planes to land just around Frodo. He's just like no, he's like hilarious. Die Hard. Doesn't Die Hard do that? He has like fire on Die Hard 2. Remember when the plane's landing? Anyways, I sure don't. I think he has like fire when he's trying to get it to land. But oh man. Die Hard. Oh my gosh. We're from Die Hard. Oh my But there were so many good things out of the sequence where, like, if you had it, because I remember we talk Lord of the Rings quite a bit, me and John, but
way too much.
I was like, oh, I loved when Aragorn threw the fire over the shoulder and it hit the ghost, and he was like, like on fire, and John's like, "What are you talking about? I hated that."
Yeah, I always thought that like these Nazgul they used to be these great kings that that Sauron kind of tricked into taking the rings, and they got turned into these like immortal like Nazgul servants, and Aragorn just takes them all out by himself on this hilltop when they have them all surrounded, and then this last one's just like, just sneaking around like, are they not going to see me? I'm just this big robed black, character imposing. And he just turns around, throws the fire right in his little hood, and just runs off. And it's like, oh man, it just no.
And that's when you knew he was going to survive to the end of the movie.
Oh man. Yeah.
But so if you had to pick the live action version of Weathertop or the animated, which one would you pick because of that moment? Like, would you say the vibe was stronger in the animation, even though, like, obviously it's not movie quality, but like, do you prefer that?
I like the way different take that the animated film does. So this is how I would say this. This is probably going to pop up repeatedly as we go through this film and compare it to the live action. Is if the framing was a little bit better for the animation, the animated film, and then they had, say, the same music.
Oh,
I feel like
music. That's not
I
fair.
still feel like the music is the biggest differentiating factor that I'm seeing in this. It's like, okay, like the music's just not the same. In fact, a lot of sections as we're continuing on this are just silent. There's no music whatsoever. You're just hearing the sound effects, which can make for great effect, but at the same time, man, was Howard Shore that did the music for?
And he did such a fantastic job.
Yeah, I mean, you can't separate those two.
Oh,
you can't separate the live action from the music. Yeah.
And here's a little thing that Howard Shore did in the film. So every time, like for the Fellowship theme song, every time like another member was added, that he would add like another instrument to it, and then you don't hear the full the full orchestrated version until they're on the mountaintop.
It's like going that hill, yeah.
It's like full epic though. You know what I mean? Like you would hear it before. But it would just be like maybe just a couple instruments and stuff. But then like you hear the grand thing when they're all together. I'm like, that's so cool. So every time like someone died and left the group, did it go back?
I don't know. It's just back to like just a
I know, he's like,
but,
they're just like pulling trumpets out of people's mouths.
And obviously Howard Shore is one of the best out there. But at the same time, it's when you have someone dedicated, that's all they're doing. I mean, not to undercut that at all, but when that's their main goal, they're figuring out how they can tell a story with that. And that's not to say that the person that did the score for the animated film wasn't putting a lot into it as well, but there's definitely a big, difference.
But like, look at the time now too, though. You know what I mean? Like, orchestrated stuff for films is such a big part of the budget for big
I mean,
action
aside
movies.
from, I can think of a few composers that were definitely really big names, but I think in my lifetime, as I've gotten older, they got the recognition. But back then, unless you were John Williams, I don't think composers had really, really huge, big names. I mean, there's definitely like Jerry Goldsmith and Ellie Goldenthal. There's some really big people that were doing scores, but it's not like it is now, where the people doing the orchestrated score get huge recognition now.
Dude, are you excited for the next one? It gets so good.
Oh,
it gets so freaking good. Oh my god!
One of my I can't wait to get to the Balrog. Ooh,
oh yeah, the Balrog, and then like when we get to the Fellowship, like when they first meet, and it keeps going. So this animated
Gandalf
series
and Saruman
only goes to Helm's Deep, I believe, right?
Yes, Helm's Deep is the end. Yeah.
So we're gonna go to Helm's Deep. And then we're going to watch the Return of the King one because we've never seen the Return of the King animated
which
version.
is done in the style of The Hobbit, which we'll need to do on here as well, because that's my co-favorite animated film of all time.
So if you're enjoying this, please let us know in the comments down below. Let us know if there's something we missed. I noticed there wasn't as many limping walk cycles in this one, which was cool.
Yeah, the Gimps fixed their act up, yeah.
And also less movement too. Before, every time they were talking, they were like literally shaking their hands like this, like.
Let me ask you this question. I'm curious. Do you think they shot this movie in sequence, the animated film? Because I feel like they started off.
They did, because the quality goes down throughout the movie.
Yes, the quality goes up. The painted backgrounds get a little bit less quality, and the animation gets way more choppy.
We'll see though, because maybe some of the action sequences were budgeted. I don't know. We're gonna go through it step by step, because now I'm really looking
we're
for
gonna be guessing, but
and I'm really looking for it now. So I'm gonna be really looking for it when I watch it again. I'm gonna watch this a lot.
All right, guys, so more to come in the animated versus live action Lord of the Rings. Check out AsArt.space for all the audio and video links, and we'll see you on the next AsArt.